There will be seasons in life when you find yourself standing alone, not because you chose to push people away, but because sometimes the road you must take is yours alone to walk. And in those moments you will be tested, not in the comfort of company, but in the silence of solitude. Being alone can feel like the world has turned its back on you. Friends drift. Family doesn't understand. People you once trusted disappear when you need them most. It's in this space that many crumble because they think strength comes from numbers. But true strength, real, unshakable, unbreakable strength, is forged in solitude. When you are alone, you learn to listen to the one voice that will never abandon you, your own. You learn to trust your instincts, to make decisions without needing validation, to face fear without someone else holding your hand. And when you master that, when you can stand steady without leaning on anyone, you become unstoppable. Understand this, loneliness and being alone are not the same. Loneliness is an H, a sense of loss. Being alone can be a choice, a training ground, a place where you strip away the noise and learn who you are without the world's constant influence. It's where you discover that your value doesn't come from being needed, liked, or approved. It comes from knowing who you are and standing firm in it. People will leave, circumstances will change, support systems will fail, but if your strength depends on others holding you up, you will fall when they walk away. Build the kind of resilience that stands tall no matter who is standing with you. That's being unbreakable. And being unbreakable doesn't mean you're made of stone. It doesn't mean you never feel hurt, sadness, or fear. It means those emotions don't destroy you. It means you bend, but you don't break. You get knocked down, but you rise again every single time. So, if right now you feel like you're on your own, don't run from it. Sit in it. Learn from it. Let it teach you the power of self-reliance. Use this season to fortify your mind, your body, your spirit. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Become the person who rescues yourself. The truth is, you don't truly know your strength until being strong is your only option. You won't know how much you can endure until life demands that you endure it. And once you come out the other side, once you realize you survived without breaking, you'll carry that knowledge for the rest of your life. So walk your path. Alone if you must, but walk it with your head high, your heart steady, and your spirit unshakable. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the moments you thought would break you were the very moments that made you unbreakable. When you find yourself alone, the first instinct is often to see it as a weakness, as a sign that something is wrong. You look around and there's no one beside you, and that absence can feel heavy. But what if you began to see this space differently? What if you recognized it as a strength training ground, a place where resilience, self-reliance, and clarity are built? Alone doesn't have to mean lonely. Alone can mean you've been given the most powerful opportunity to develop the one relationship that will outlast all others. The one you have with yourself. When you're surrounded by people, it's easy to lose track of your own voice. Opinions, expectations, and demands come from every direction, and before you know it, you're making choices that please others, but slowly chip away at who you are. Solitude strips that away. It forces you to tune out the noise and hear your own thoughts clearly. You begin to realize how much of your life was influenced by what others wanted rather than what you truly needed. This is where you start to learn how to trust yourself. Think about it. When you're alone, every decision rests on you. There's no one to lean on, no safety net to catch you if you hesitate. That might sound intimidating, but it's also liberating. You start to develop the ability to make choices confidently without the constant need for validation. You learn to weigh risks, accept the consequences, and keep moving forward. And each time you do this, you add another layer of strength to your character. Being in this training ground also means confronting parts of yourself you might have avoided when life was busy or crowded. You can't distract yourself with constant company or noise. You face your fears, insecurities, and even your past. While that can feel uncomfortable, it's also where transformation happens. Growth never comes from comfort. It comes from those moments when you sit in the discomfort and push through it. You discover that you can survive the hard emotions, and in doing so, they lose their power over you. In solitude, you also start to understand your limits and your capabilities. You may surprise yourself with how resourceful you can be. Need to solve a problem? You'll figure it out. Need to adapt to a challenge? You'll find a way. Without realizing it, you're building mental toughness, the kind that will serve you for the rest of your life. Because when the world throws chaos your way, and it will, you'll already have the tools to handle it. This kind of strength training isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about knowing that you can stand on your own 2 feet without collapsing. It's about understanding that while you may love and appreciate the support of others, you don't depend on it for survival. That independence becomes your foundation, making every relationship you do have healthier and more balanced, because you're in it by choice, not necessity. There's also a deep kind of freedom that comes with embracing solitude. You're not chasing approval. You're not bending yourself to fit into places you don't belong. And you're not wasting energy trying to hold on to people who don't want to stay. Your time and energy are invested in building your goals, your vision, and your strength. And when you show up in the world from that place, people notice. They respect you more because they see you as someone who doesn't crumble under pressure or fold without a crowd. Think of solitude like lifting emotional and mental weights. The first time you pick them up, it's uncomfortable. Your muscles strain. You doubt you can handle it. But the more you practice, the stronger you get. Before long, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. The challenges that used to overwhelm you become manageable, and the setbacks that used to derail you become temporary pauses instead of permanent defeats. And here's the thing, life will test you. People will walk away, circumstances will shift, and there will be days when you have no one to rely on but yourself. If you've trained in solitude, if you've built your strength in those quiet moments when no one was watching, those tests won't break you. You'll recognize them for what they are, opportunities to prove to yourself just how far you've come. In those moments, you'll stand taller, not because you've never fallen, but because you've learned how to get up without a hand pulling you. You'll face uncertainty without panic, because you've faced yourself and survived. You'll carry a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to shout, because you know that you've been through the fire and come out stronger. So when you find yourself alone, see it for what it is, a rare and powerful season. Use it to build the skills, the mindset, and the inner strength that will carry you through every storm. Every moment you spend here is an investment in the kind of resilience that makes you truly unbreakable. Loneliness and being alone are often thrown into the same basket, but they are two very different experiences. Loneliness is a feeling. It's that ache in your chest when you believe you've been forgotten or left behind. It's the emptiness that whispers you're not enough without someone else by your side. Being alone, on the other hand, is simply a state of being. It's physical space without the presence of others. And here's the truth most people don't see. Being alone can be one of the most empowering and transformative experiences of your life if you learn how to use it. Loneliness makes you feel small. It convinces you that your worth is tied to your connections, that without constant interaction, you somehow lose value. It feeds off insecurity, magnifying every fear you've ever had about being unwanted or unloved. This is why so many people will do anything to avoid it, jumping into unhealthy relationships, overfilling their schedules, staying connected to people who drain them just to avoid the silence. But when you start to understand the difference between loneliness and simply being alone, you unlock a whole new level of control over your life. Being alone can be a choice, and when you choose it with intention, it becomes a tool for growth. Alone is where you get to recharge, reflect, and reassess where you're going. It's where you can silence the outside world long enough to hear what's actually happening inside of you. Most people don't realize how much external noise shapes their decisions. We are constantly surrounded by opinions, judgments, and social pressures that push us in directions we might never choose for ourselves. But when you're alone, all of that fades, and you get to ask the questions that matter. Who am I really? What do I want? What am I willing to walk away from? In solitude, you're free from the need to perform. There's no pretending to be someone you're not. No pressure to match someone else's pace. No comparison to what others are doing. You can strip back the layers and just be. That's when you begin to see yourself clearly, not as the world labels you, but as you truly are. And once you start to appreciate that version of yourself, the one who doesn't need to hide or seek approval, you start walking differently in the world. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that says, I'm enough, even on my own. This shift doesn't happen overnight. At first, being alone can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to constant company. There's a withdrawal period where the silence feels unnatural, even threatening, but just like any skill, you adapt. You start to notice the peace that comes when you're not trying to keep up with anyone else's expectations. You realize how much mental energy you save by not managing other people's emotions or fitting yourself into spaces where you don't belong. The power of being alone is that it's all about you, your pace, your values, your needs. You get to decide how you spend your time, where your focus goes, and who, if anyone, you invite into that space. You can pour energy into your goals without distraction, pursue interests you've put off, and invest in the kind of personal growth that doesn't require an audience. And when you've done that long enough, you reach a point where, even if people come and go, it doesn't shake you. You know how to stand firm because you've built your stability from within. The danger of confusing loneliness with being alone is that it can cause you to avoid solitude altogether. You might fill every gap in your day with noise, scrolling on your phone, turning on the TV, surrounding yourself with people who add no real value, just to avoid sitting with yourself. But here's the thing, when you constantly run from being alone, you rob yourself of the chance to build that inner foundation. You make yourself dependent on others for your sense of worth, and that's a dangerous place to live, because the moment they leave, you collapse. When you embrace being alone, you take back your power. You no longer wait for someone else to validate you or make you feel whole. You realize you already have everything you need inside you. The relationships you do form from that place are healthier because they're not built out of desperation or fear of being by yourself. You choose them because they add to your life, not because you can't bear the thought of losing them. The world often paints solitude as something to avoid, as if it's a sign you failed at connection or aren't lovable. But some of the strongest, most self-aware people you'll ever meet have spent seasons of their life alone. They've used that time to work on themselves, to get clearer about their boundaries, and to sharpen their focus on what matters. They don't settle for less because they're not afraid of walking away. They're not driven by the panic of losing someone. They're grounded in the confidence they can stand alone if they have to. When you start seeing alone time as a gift rather than a punishment, everything changes. The pressure to fit in, to be liked, to constantly be on, fades away. You stop chasing people who don't value you because you've learned to value yourself. You stop filling your days with meaningless distractions because you'd rather spend that time investing in something real, your growth, your peace, your purpose. The truth is, there's nothing to fear in being alone. What's dangerous is never learning how to be okay with it, because once you do, you're free. And freedom, in the end, is the foundation of an unbreakable life. Your value isn't determined by how many people stand beside you, applaud you, or agree with you. It's not measured in likes, followers, or how often your phone lights up with messages. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the more people you have around you, the more important you must be. But that illusion crumbles the moment those people disappear. If your sense of worth is tied to the presence of others, you'll find yourself constantly chasing approval, adjusting who you are just to keep their support. That's not strength. That's dependency disguised as connection. The truth is, your worth exists whether people acknowledge it or not. You had value the day you were born, before you ever earned a title, before anyone decided to love you, before you achieved anything worth showing off. You still have that value even if you're standing alone right now. But too often, we give that truth away. We hand our worth over to the opinions of others, letting them decide how much we matter based on their temporary feelings or fleeting attention. When you believe your value comes from people's approval, you live in a constant state of performance. You say yes when you want to say no. You hold back opinions because you're afraid of rocking the boat. You keep people close who don't treat you well because you think being mistreated is better than being alone. In doing that, you slowly chip away at your own dignity, all in the name of belonging. But belonging at the cost of yourself is never true belonging. It's compromise, and it's expensive. Standing in your own value means knowing you have something to offer, even if no one sees it right now. It means making decisions based on your principles, not on how they'll be received. It means walking away from situations and people that diminish you without the fear that you'll somehow be less without them. That level of self-respect doesn't happen overnight. It's built one choice at a time. There will be moments when choosing yourself will cost you people. Friends who liked you better when you were more agreeable may fade away. Colleagues may turn cold when you stop tolerating being undervalued. Even family might resist when you draw boundaries. These moments hurt, but they're also proof that you're aligning your life with your worth instead of sacrificing it to keep others comfortable. When you stop defining yourself by who stands with you, you become immune to the highs and lows of other people's opinions. Praise feels good, but it doesn't inflate your ego. Criticism may sting, but it doesn't dismantle you. You start operating from a place of internal validation, where the question is no longer, do they think I'm enough? But am I living in a way that feels true to me? That shift changes everything. Think about the most respected and resilient people you know. They're not the ones who bend to every opinion or scramble to win everyone over. They're the ones who know who they are and carry themselves with quiet confidence. Regardless of who's in the room, they can stand alone because they've done the work to build their worth from the inside out. And because they're not desperate for approval, the relationships they do have are stronger, built on mutual respect, not neediness. This mindset also changes how you respond to loss. When you measure your value by your connections, losing someone feels like losing a part of yourself. But when you know your worth is intact regardless of who stays or goes, loss becomes an event, not an identity shift. You grieve, you heal, and you keep moving because your foundation is still solid. It's also worth remembering that sometimes the crowd around you can actually hold you back. People who don't believe in your vision will subtly zen or not so subtly discourage you. They'll project their fears onto you, keep you in familiar patterns, or expect you to play a role that benefits them but stifles you. When you're attached to the idea that their presence equals your value, you'll listen to them. When you know your worth independently, you'll have the courage to ignore them and move forward. Living from this truth requires boundaries. Clear, firm, unapologetic boundaries. Boundaries are how you communicate your value without having to constantly explain it. They say, I respect myself too much to tolerate anything less than what aligns with who I am. People who respect you will honor those boundaries. People who don't will push against them. And that's okay, because your goal is not to be liked by everyone. It's to live in alignment with your values. The moment you stop tying your worth to the people beside you, you take back your freedom. You no longer feel the need to over-explain, overcompensate, or overcommit just to keep others around. You're able to say no without guilt, yes without hesitation, and goodbye without collapsing. And here's the beautiful irony. When you operate from that place, the people who do choose to stand beside you are there for the right reasons. They're not there because you've molded yourself into what they want there, because they respect the person you already are. In the end, the strength to stand alone comes from the unwavering belief that you are enough. Not because someone told you, not because someone stayed. Not because you have a crowd behind you, but because it's the truth. The day you stop seeking constant proof of your value from others is the day you start living from a place of unshakable confidence. And when you live from that place, you become not just someone who survives without the crowd. You become someone who thrives, no matter who's watching. Pain is one of life's most honest teachers. It doesn't sugarcoat its lessons, it doesn't wait until you're ready, and it doesn't ask for permission before it arrives. Pain steps in uninvited, sits down in the middle of your life, and demands your attention. Most people try to push it away, numb it, or outrun it, but you can't truly escape it. The more you resist, the more it lingers. The moment you start to see pain not as a life sentence, but as a teacher, is the moment everything changes. Pain has a way of stripping away the non-essential. When you're hurting, you see more clearly what matters and what doesn't. People who are genuine become obvious, and those who are only there for convenience fall away. Goals that were once about impressing others lose their appeal, replaced by deeper, more meaningful pursuits. Pain forces you to stop moving on autopilot and confront the truth about your life. And in that confrontation, you often find clarity you couldn't reach any other way. Think about some of the strongest people you've met or heard about. Almost without exception, they've been through something that tested them. Loss, failure, betrayal, hardship. Those experiences didn't define their entire existence, but they shaped the way they move through the world. They learned patience, compassion, and resilience not from comfort, but from difficulty. That's because pain has the unique ability to teach lessons that comfort never could. Comfort lets you stay the same. Pain forces you to grow. When you're in the middle of it, pain feels endless. You wonder if you'll ever breathe without that heaviness again. But just like physical wounds, emotional wounds can heal if you allow them to. The mistake people often make is trying to avoid the feeling altogether. They distract themselves, jump into new relationships, overwork, or keep themselves constantly busy. But healing doesn't happen in distraction. It happens in the quiet, when you face what hurts and begin to understand it. This doesn't mean you have to enjoy the process or pretend that everything is okay. It means acknowledging that pain can be a turning point if you let it be. Every hurt carries with it the opportunity to either break you or build you. The difference lies in whether you see yourself as a victim of the pain or as a student of it. Victims stay trapped in the why me mindset, replaying the hurt without moving forward. Students ask, what is this here to teach me? That question doesn't erase the pain, but it shifts the way you carry it. Pain teaches boundaries. After betrayal, you learn to protect your trust more carefully. After burnout, you learn to say no without guilt. After loss, you learn to value moments and people in a way you never did before. Each lesson you take from pain becomes a piece of armor, not to close you off from the world, but to make you stronger and more intentional in how you move through it. It's also worth recognizing that pain reveals your own strength in ways nothing else can. You don't know the depth of your resilience until life demands it. You don't know how resourceful you can be until you're forced to find a way forward when every door seems closed. And you don't truly understand your capacity for endurance until the days feel unbearable and you keep showing up anyway. In a way, pain is the ultimate test of character. Anyone can carry themselves well when things are easy. True integrity, discipline, and courage show up when life is hard. How you respond in those moments will shape not only your future, but the way you see yourself for the rest of your life. If you push through and rise above it, you'll carry that knowledge into every challenge that comes next. You'll know, I've survived worse. I can do this. The key is not to get stuck in the narrative that pain is permanent. It's not. It can leave scars, yes, but scars are proof of healing, not evidence of permanent damage. They're reminders that you endured something that could have broken you, and didn't. Over time, you may even come to see those scars with a kind of gratitude, because without them you wouldn't be the person you are today. Pain also has a way of deepening your empathy. Once you've been through something difficult, you become more aware of the struggles others might be facing. You listen differently. You extend grace more easily. You understand that sometimes the strongest looking people are carrying the heaviest loads. That awareness can change the way you lead, connect, and build relationships. It makes you not only stronger, but kinder. There will be people who tell you to get over it or move on too quickly. They mean well, but they don't understand that rushing healing is like trying to run on a broken leg. It only makes the injury worse. Take the time you need to process, to rebuild, to learn the lesson pain is offering you. Just don't set up camp there. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without being controlled by the memory. When you come out the other side of pain, you're different. You're wiser, sharper, more grounded. Things that used to shake you don't anymore. Petty problems roll off you because you've faced real storms. You stop seeking validation from shallow places because you've learned that what truly matters can't be given or taken away by others. So while you never asked for the pain, you can choose what to do with it. You can let it harden you into someone bitter, or you can let it shape you into someone unbreakable. And that choice, the decision to use pain as a teacher rather than a life sentence, is what will set you apart. Because life will always bring challenges, but once you've learned to transform pain into strength, there's nothing it can take from you that you can't rebuild. Being unbreakable doesn't mean you walk through life untouched by hardship. It doesn't mean you never cry, never doubt, never feel fear or pain. Too often, people mistake strength for an absence of emotion, as if resilience is about being made of stone. But the truth is, real strength lives in the ability to feel everything, the fear, the grief, the anger, and keep moving forward anyway. Being unbreakable isn't about being untouchable, but it's about refusing to let what touches you destroy you. Life will hit you. Sometimes gently, sometimes with a force you didn't see coming. You will lose people you thought you couldn't live without. You will fail at things you worked hard for. You will be betrayed, misunderstood, underestimated. If you expect to move through life without these moments, you'll be constantly blindsided. But if you accept that storms are inevitable, you stop wasting energy being shocked by them and start focusing on how you'll respond when they arrive. The unbreakable person isn't someone who has avoided struggle. It's someone who has learned how to bend without shattering. Imagine a tree in a storm. The ones that survive aren't the rigid ones that fight against the wind. They're the ones with roots deep enough to hold them steady and branches flexible enough to sway without snapping. That's what it means to be strong and still human. You root yourself in your values, your sense of self, and your purpose, so when life shakes you, you bend, but you don't break. Part of this strength comes from accepting that vulnerability and resilience can exist side by side. There's a kind of courage in admitting, "This hurts," or "I'm scared," while still taking the next step forward. You don't have to pretend everything's fine to keep going. In fact, pretending often slows the healing process because it keeps you from addressing what's really happening. True resilience says, "Yes, I'm struggling, but I'm still here, and I'm still moving. Being unbreakable also means being adaptable. The path you planned might disappear overnight. The role you've identified with might be stripped away. You might find yourself starting over more than once. If your identity and self-worth are tied only to things that can be taken away, a job title, a relationship, a certain lifestyle, then losing them will feel like losing yourself. But if you've built your sense of worth on something deeper, you can adapt to change without losing your foundation. This doesn't mean change won't hurt. It will. But when you're unbreakable, you see change not as an end, but as a pivot. You learn to ask, where do I go from here? Instead of, why did this happen to me? That shift in perspective turns setbacks into setups for growth. Another part of being unbreakable is the ability to set boundaries and enforce them even when it's hard. People will test your limits. Some will push against them out of ignorance, others will do it intentionally. The unbreakable person knows that protecting their peace isn't selfish. It's essential. You can't stay strong if you're constantly drained by situations or people who deplete you. Boundaries keep you from crumbling under the weight of demands that were never yours to carry. But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of unbreakable strength is recovery. It's not about how quickly you bounce back, but about your willingness to do the work to heal. The world glorifies the idea of getting over it fast, but resilience is not a race. It's about moving at the pace that allows you to rebuild with intention. So you come back stronger, not just patched together. When you're unbreakable, you also stop defining yourself by what's happened to you. The world will try to label you by your worst day, your biggest failure, or your deepest wound. But strength is in choosing not to let those moments be your entire story. You acknowledge them, you learn from them, but you refuse to live as if they're the only thing that defines you. People who are truly unbreakable often carry a quiet calm about them. It's not that they've never been through chaos. It's they've been through enough to know they can survive it. They don't need to prove their strength by being loud or aggressive. Their confidence comes from experience. They've seen themselves get back up before, and they trust they can do it again if necessary. This mindset also changes how you interact with others. When you know you're unbreakable, you don't fear losing people as much because you know you can stand without them if you have to. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you capable of loving more deeply because your love is a choice, not a dependency. You can give freely without the constant anxiety of, what if they leave? Because you know you'll be okay either way. It's important to remember that becoming unbreakable is a process, not a personality trait you're born with. It's forged in the moments you thought would break you, but didn't. It's built each time you face something that scares you and move forward anyway. It grows every time you choose to get up one more time than life knocks you down. In the end, being unbreakable is about balance. It's the strength to protect yourself without building walls so high no one can get in. The courage to keep moving even when you're scared, the wisdom to adapt when life changes, and the resilience to recover when you've been knocked off course. It's not about being invincible. It's about being unstoppable. Because no matter what comes your way, you refuse to let it be the end of your story. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. People will leave, plans will collapse, and the path we thought was certain will shift beneath our feet. In those moments, the easy thing to do is to see ourselves as powerless, to let the weight of disappointment convince us that we are broken. But the truth is, every challenge, every hardship, every season of solitude is an invitation to step into the strength that was always there inside you. You don't become unbreakable by avoiding difficulty. You become unbreakable by moving through it. Every time you stand alone and choose to keep going, you prove to yourself that you can rely on your own 2 feet. Every time you embrace being alone instead of running from it, you sharpen your instincts and learn to listen to the voice inside you. Every time you stop seeking your worth in other people's approval, you reclaim control over your life. Every time you face pain and allow it to teach you instead of define you, you grow wiser and more resilient. And every time you feel fear, doubt, or grief but keep moving anyway, you strengthen the roots that keep you steady in the storm. It's not about becoming immune to hurt. It's about understanding that hurt is part of life and refusing to let it decide who you are. The strongest people you'll ever meet are not the ones who have never been knocked down. They are the ones who got back up over and over, no matter how hard they fell. They know their value, they guard their peace, and they move forward with purpose, not because life has been easy, but because they chose to rise. Your journey will have seasons where the road feels empty and the silence feels loud. But if you learn to see those seasons as your training ground, you'll discover something powerful. You are capable of standing in that space without collapsing. You are capable of walking forward without needing a crowd behind you. You are capable of facing pain without letting it consume you. The world will try to measure you by what you have, who you know, and how many people stand with you. But none of that defines you. What defines you is how you carry yourself when no one's watching, when no one's cheering, when no one's there to hold you up. That is where your true strength lies. So keep walking, keep standing, keep showing up for yourself. You may be alone at times, but you are never without power. And when you look back on the moments you thought would break you, you'll see that they were the very moments that shaped you into who you are now. Stronger, wiser, and unbreakable.